So, I'm gonna be coming into this with a loaded gun. Hair trigger here. I'm off the edge, man. Loose cannon. Nothing to lose, all of that. After trying and failing to bring my opinion closer to the general consensus despite myself, I've come to a realization. It's not gonna happen. My feelings on Better Call Saul are just too fundamentally separated from the public discourse. I can't lie about it in good faith or somehow express myself in a tactful way that will bridge the gap while still being accurate. So I've decided, screw it, not even gonna bother. I'm the villain this time around. I'm gonna embrace that. You know, full honesty, all my opinions exactly how they are expressed. By the way, this video might be kind of long, but hey, if you're a Better Call Saul fan, that shouldn't be a problem, right? So, all my disclaimers out of the way. Obviously, this is all my opinion. I take no issue with people with differing opinions. In fact, I prefer when people have a diversity of thought on a given piece of media. Wildly different opinions. It encourages mental exploration, and it's just less fucking boring than just having everyone in this fucking hive mind where everyone thinks the exact same thing and there's nothing to talk about that we get with a lot of media and a lot of fandoms these days. Now, my clickbait title, it's kind of a contentious point. After all, I'm not even saying Better Call Saul is bad. I'm saying it's overrated. But that word doesn't mean anything. Really, right? Everything is overrated and underrated. They're relative terms. And not only that, they imply a linear scale, which really doesn't exist. Nothing can be overrated, even as an opinion piece, unless you're looking at one very specific opinion you disagree with. Some people argue that you shouldn't watch a show based on, expectations that are placed on you by the fan base, by the vocal minority, by the whatever, but it's kind of a fanciful, perfect world bullshit argument, you know? The problem with this comes down to people's desire to separate objective, critical observation of media from subjective feelings and opinions and stuff. Issue is, it's all subjective. There's no fucking objective, critical observation that is separated. Even things that are factually observable are inseparably linked to your emotional attachment to it. So when I say that I find the Better Call Saul fanbase really fucking annoying, or at least some of them, it makes the show leave more of a sour taste in my mouth while watching it, then sure, that's not even a knock against the creators, obviously. It's not their fault. The fanbase made the show annoying by overpraising it, or being obnoxious about it, but still, my enjoyment of the show is damaged by this annoyance. I can't help that, And don't try to tell me it's my fault for, not managing my feelings. You try to watch something that you dislike on external principles. Try to get into something that has the most infuriating fan base you've ever seen. Don't let a single expectation you have going into it or a thought in the back of your mind in any way negatively affect your viewing experience of something. So no, the show isn't overrated because the word makes no sense. But yes, the show is overrated to me because I saw a lot of overrating of it and it bugged the shit out of me. So, since I'll be complaining a lot in this video, let me get some positives first. Since this isn't a show that I think is bad, it's just a show that I think is overrated, and also has some, it's like it makes mixed bag content. Things I like, things I hate, ambivalent content. All that, there's plenty of obvious stuff to praise about Better Call Saul. Now, I'll need to find a way to tiptoe around this section because, like I said, there are too many elements that are unavoidably linked. For instance, if I talk about the really cool, creative, ambitious camera work and methods of setting a scene, well, that aspect of the show is also linked to some things that I dislike about it, such as how fucking long these shots end up dragging on for, and how until their charm of their novelty eventually wears thin. So it's hard for me to give straightforward compliments, no addendums. But I do have them. I do have a lot of things in the show that I think are pretty good. I think it's a pretty good show overall, but fuck, it's hard to find something to talk about that isn't also linked to something I dislike. Let's talk about the acting. In watching... I was on Twitter, not complaining, but I was like... obviously I like Bob Odenkirk, but I don't think he's... I've seen several of, not all of them obviously, but I've seen several of the shows that are in the running for Emmy conversation and that kind of stuff, and it seems very clear to me that there's many actors whose performances are absolutely phenomenal, and I don't strictly think of Bob Odenkirk as, like, you know, a godlike talent in the same way that I do some of these other people. You know, like, like Bob Odenkirk's best trait as an actor is that he has a very identifiable voice. You know, like his voice has a unique quality to it that sounds good and sounds in roles, but I don't think his actual acting or delivering is like on par with what I think in my head of like insanely good acting, like Heath Ledger, Anthony Starr, or obviously like two popular examples that come to mind in pop culture. But yeah, you know, but in watching this scene in the fucking still on episode 1, where, you know, he's doing his whole like, Jewish routine, you know, whining to this guy about being like persecuted and whatever. And the thing, obviously this scene is played up for comedy, so his like ham-fisted acting. See, that's the thing, is that as an actor, it's really hard to play, as an actor or a voice actor, it's really hard to play a character that is themselves playing another character, right? So it's hard to act as a person who is acting. So when this character, when Jimmy is lying and like trying to play up his emotional distress and be like, I'm being persecuted for being Jewish or whatever, it's hard to... It's made ham-fisted in this scene probably for comedy, and that's not his fault or anything, but it just struck me that it's like, it's very difficult to strike the nuance in that correctly, because I watched this scene and I'm like, I don't see any real human being on planet Earth actually buying this shit from Jimmy, where it's so ham-fistedly obvious that he's just lying and, like, just... I can't even call it acting because it's so... It sounds like he's being sarcastic. It's to how fucking on the nose his delivery is, right? It sounds like his character is being sarcastic about his distress. So, like, it's very bizarre. It's very surreal to watch scenes with like really obviously acting, quote unquote acting. From characters, and have other characters in the universe like actually be convinced by it or treated as genuine. And I was thinking about that because I remember there were prior scenes in the prior seasons where Rhea Seehorn, it really struck me because we see that a lot from Bob Odenkirk throughout this show, of like Jimmy playing up a role or playing up an attitude that he's just pretending, he's just acting. And it always, every single time he does it, it comes across as super ham-fisted and such. Or, okay, take like the season 4 finale, Winner, right? Where he's just lying to the board. He's lying to the, he's saying these things about how he wants to honor Chuck's memory and everything like that, trying to get his license back. And then after that, it's revealed that he was lying about it. Now, the problem with that is that that's like one of the only instances where Jimmy, the character Jimmy, is playing a role. He's lying, he's doing a performance, but it doesn't come across as super fucking hitting you on the face obvious, you know? But instead of being super fucking on the nose obvious, it's like you can't tell the difference. And not because it's like acting as an, like, playing a role that's playing a role. He just is. You know what I mean? Like, there's no middle ground. It's either there is no distinction between him playing the role and him playing a role of playing a role, or him playing a role of a role that's super fucking ham-fisted and bullshit. So, that's where, like, and in some degree, again, there's an excuse for that being intentional in the season 4 finale, because it's supposed to come across as like a bait and switch to the audience, the fact that he was lying, but it also doesn't make any sense because we've never seen Jimmy be a good liar throughout the entire fucking show. So we've never seen him be able to manipulate his own emotions that convincingly, ever, period. So it's like utterly ridiculously nonsensical and contrived that he could like make that convincing of a performance to the board. So that's stupid. But it struck me thinking about it that I don't think Bob Odenkirk can hit the middle ground of like playing a role that's playing a role and having it be like intentional. Like it's clearly not the character being their normal self, but it's also convincing enough. It also plays as convincing. And I was thinking about that because Rhea Seehorn has a couple of scenes, very sparsely, where she is fucking slaying that shit. She is so good at that subtle distinction of middle ground, and she can play Kim playing a role, and have it come across as Kim playing a role, but still be like completely reasonably convincing. And she just does such a great job in this role. Yeah, Rhea Seehorn is fucking way better. See, that's the funny thing about like Bob Odenkirk getting like best actor in a drama or whatever things is not only do I think, obviously I've said this on Twitter, but Jeremy Strong in Succession is like fucking out of this world. I think Jeremy Strong is better than like Anthony Starr as Homelander. Jeremy Strong as Kendall Roy is fucking insane. He's so good in the role, like every on-screen second. But it's funny because in my perception, I think of like I think most of the major characters in Better Call Saul give better performances than Bob Odenkirk. And again, I'm not trying to shit on him. I like him just fine. You know, I don't dislike anything about his performance, but I don't know. Michael McKean is fucking incredible. Rhea Seehorn is incredible. Patrick Fabian is pretty alright. I like his constant delivery. He's very good at that. Michael Mando is like whatever, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny. But yeah, everyone on Succession does like a better job than most of the cast here. Like every single fucking person is, because Succession is just a much less on the nose writing. Like their scene isn't slapping you in the face with one single emotion, with the camera zooming in so that you see their one single emotion and that's all that there is, because it's made for like fucking 4-year-olds who can't process more information per second than that. So Succession has just much better, like, and it also seems like they let their actors do more ad-lib shit and be more loose in the roles, which lets them really embody the characters a lot more. And it feels less like acting, and it feels more genuine. But yeah, anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Rhea Seehorn really is good at playing a role that plays a role, which is a very difficult task as an actor. Off the top of my head, best TV actors right now that I'm aware of are like Jeremy Strong, Rhea Seehorn at the top, Jeremy Strong at the top, and then Rhea Seehorn. And then, like, Kieran Culkin, Michael McKean is great, Anthony Starr, Sydney Sweeney, Laz Alonso, Sarah Snook, so on. If it wasn't obvious, I am of the opinion that the actual best Western TV show on air right now is Succession, and it's not close.
Okay, come on.
Alright, don't worry about it, Shibby. I'll handle it. You can go cut a rug.
Rome, seriously, come on.
I am being serious. I will talk to Dad and see if he wants to loop you in. He often does like to loop you in.
Rome, just fucking tell me this is important and I might need to finesse.
Oh, you would finesse?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's kind. How would you finesse something that's done? What, by ruining it?
No, by making sure you
The thing is that Lucas and I have like a thing and I don't see how you fit in.
You know what? If you want to show off to somebody, maybe do it to somebody who gives a shit.
You're having a very bad day. I know that. But with hearing that you have to continue to share your apartment with the old meat wardrobe, but, try to keep your wig on, yeah?
I'm the one in a functioning relationship.
Sure you are. I saw you, I saw you sipping Dad's champagne, looking like you were sucking a lemon.
I don't drink on work days because I have self-control.
Okay, that's what that is. Okay, I thought maybe you were thinking about all the dick you were gonna ride when he was inside.
Fucking God. You know what? No one likes talking about me fucking guys as much as you do. Do you know that? Why is that? Is that because you're the COO who can't fuck?
Did you think Tom was going to jail? Did
No,
you?
I'm happy he's
Did you?
not going
Did you?
to jail.
Oh, I'm sure you are. You look really happy. Did you think he was, though? Maybe? There's a chance he was going to jail. Maybe Dad was going to go to jail. Fuck, maybe I was going to go to jail. And because Kendall's... that it was all about you. You thought it was ladies' night and they were playing your song, but guess what? You were wrong. all the men got together in a man club and we decided, sweetheart, everything's fine, so just... We got
he
it.
is using you as a messenger boy, but as usual, you're too fucking dumb to see it.
It's difficult. I get it. It's very difficult for you to have to do the dance for Dad because you just suck at dancing.
You're a piece of shit, you know that?
It turns out he loves it when I do the daddy dance, but I guess that's because he loves me. He loves fucking me, and he just doesn't want to fuck you anymore.
What are you even talking about? You're so gross!
Oh, Daddy doesn't love his little carrot top, even when she does a little daddy dance. Daddy dance.
Fucking hate you, man.
Oh shit! Look at it is! Birthday boy! Hey! Happy birthday, man.
Nah, yeah?
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. Good night!
Neither of you should be in here.
Oh my god, you're right. Someone called the cops. Intruders have breached the masturbatorium.
You're both full of shit, and you came here to fuck me behind my back, and you're ghouls, and you're disgusting.
Sorry. Whoops.
Can we get them out?
Oh,
Can we get them out, please?
It's a little late for that, buddy. I already spoke to Manson, who hates you, by the way, and laughs at you constantly.
Just stop.
Oh, what? Go easy on birthday boy?
Did you come here to see me at all? You didn't, did you, Shiv?
Well, look, we haven't been getting along that great lately, so what do you think? Surprise?
Gojo was my idea. You stole my idea.
You stole my idea. What are you, fucking six? Dude, you lost. No big deal. No need to cry about it. You lost.
You like the spying shit? On my daughter?
No.
On your niece? You like that?
Okay, lay off the drugs,
Not
Kat.
a fucking big deal. Who gives a shit?
We are?
Yes, of course. Oh, come on. Of course we are. It's a fucking party game. He's in Dad's shit, so we're up in his. Everybody's in the shit. Don't
no,
act like
okay,
you're
that is
fucking clean.
disgusting.
It's disgusting. What, you're siding with him now? Traitor?
I'm just saying there's a line, bro. Fucking
there's a
Sophie and
line
Iverson,
now?
they're kids.
There's a fucking line now. No line for him. No line for you, but there's a line for me. You're a bunch of stuck-up cunts who can't fucking bear to see me win. That's it. That's all this is.
You're not a real person. You know that? You're not a real person. You're not real.
Come on. Why don't you hit me, maybe? Come on, shitty Jesus. You know you want to. Just fucking hit me. Do it. I'm not a real person. Fuck you. Alright, I'm sorry. Have a good birthday, okay, fuckface? Hey! Oh, shit! Oh, fuck, are you okay? Happy birthday!
Everybody just take it easy, okay?
Take your coat off. Take your fucking coat off.
That's enough. That's enough.
Take your fucking coat off!
Fucking 8-year-old. You're an asshole.
It's funny. It's funny. You're gonna laugh at it later. You're gonna wake up in the middle of the night and be like, that was funny. To the birthday boy.
Anyways, that got off topic. Point is, acting in Better Call Saul is good. And in general, the scene direction is good. But again, this runs also into many caveats. I like the scene direction for actor directions and stuff. It's not as good as with Succession. Obviously, it's more like kiddie pool on the nose directing, but that has more to do with the writing. But it's generally solid, and it helps some otherwise bland performances work well. But I don't like the scene writing or how the scenes are fundamentally structured. I like the scene direction, but I also hate it because the scene direction seems to prioritize doing as little as possible for as long as possible. I don't like what they're trying to go for. I think it's a stupid fucking idea, but they give good direction to do these stupid scenes, is what I mean. Editing in this show is top-notch. Easily the best part is the editing. No complaints. Editing is on fucking fire. What did I say? You know, it's a pretty fun show. I mean, it wavers. It wavers. Some scenes are way more engaging than others, so it's hard to pick out a constant. But yeah, it's a fun show. It's entertaining to sit down and watch. Maybe some dull parts, but there's also some extra good parts. I think it's pretty decent in the raw entertainment aspect. Other shows are better than this in that regard, but it's not bad. I didn't find any of it unwatchable. Music is solid. They have really fun. They have a lot of fun with the playlist in this series. This is a really montage-heavy show, which ordinarily would mean quickly moving events and a lot of ground to cover in a short montage, but not with this show. Even so, most of them are fun and have good, fun novel music and stuff. If I wanted to be really, and I mean really generous with interpreting Better Call Saul, I'd say that it maybe has some interesting commentary on the justice system, judgment method, etc. Jimmy often takes the stance of trying to do something that he thinks is right, or that he tells himself that he thinks is right, perhaps, but the law doesn't agree, or otherwise it won't effectively solve the problem, in his view. But then, obviously, if we have people like Jimmy going vigilante, is society supposed to just trust his judgment on what's right and wrong? What right do people have to think that they know better than the law, or that they think that their methodology is preferable to the legal system? Like babies first law versus a vigilantism argument. Not exactly deep stuff, but it's at least not complete bullshit like all of the other themes in this show. And even then, if you want media that has interesting commentary on the moral significance of a flawed justice system versus vigilantism, there are much more intelligent pieces out there. Watch The Third Murder! The Third Murder. It's much better. I don't agree with this, but you could try to make an argument for the show's commentary on mental health and vices. I have the opposite opinion, but 90% of the excuses this show gives for Jimmy's erratic choices, and other characters as well, boils down to, vague mental illness. He can't help himself. Just the compulsions, too strong. Go fuck yourself. Which, if someone really wanted to try to run with the angle of some actually worthwhile statement this show has to say about mental health, either individually or societally, then fine. I don't think there is anything worthwhile in that angle, but I could at least respect the argument for it. There is some evidence to be used in that regards. And I mean, there is some real-world truth to the idea of wearing down your learned superego. It's just like Lord of the Flies, You're in an environment that has no societal or moral rules being enforced or being preached to you. You lose the impulses of your superego. In that sense, the more you do something that you maybe shouldn't be doing, or that you never thought you could get away with, but it's actually easy to get away with, the less you instinctively care about doing it, your resistance to doing questionable things will wear thin. This is true for anything. Fake being sick to get out of work one time, your perfect attendance will start looking worse as it becomes more of a compulsive or impulsive habit. So, as a troubled child, from a young age, I can buy some level of Jimmy's impulse to break some rules. However, this has its own problems, which we'll talk about later. Chuck's character motivations are kind of interesting, both in how he manipulates people and does shady shit similar to Jimmy, uncouth shit, but does so under the guidance of law, with the affirmation that its legality must imply that his actions are justified, and also his learned hatred of Jimmy and his self-ascribed relationship with Jimmy. What else? Lalo, he's likable. He's, he's kind of corny at sometimes with his stupid-ass fucking zombie stare thing that he does to the camera, be like, scary murder man, he's so cray-cray, but it's pretty fucking derivative. But other than that, I like him. And he's hot. I like looking at him. Kim is hot. Nacho is kind of hot. Good eating all around. I like the way Howard talks. He's charming and personable. I like that the show doesn't use a singular color palette. One scene will be fucking piss yellow, another scene will have this weird, bright blue god ray lighting from every external light source. I could easily argue for it being jarring in some instances, but there's nothing about it that I find off-putting. I just like the variety, One thing that I'm on the fence with is the kind of scenes where they're showing you the process of something. You don't know what you're watching or what the point of the goal or the plan is right away, and it's obviously not like Better Call Saul invented this kind of scene, but holy shit, I've never seen any piece of media do it more than this show. And I don't have a solid opinion on this. Say, when you're watching Jimmy do some sort of scam, and you don't get it quite yet, you don't get the exact strategy right away, so you're watching him and trying to figuring out what his plan is by watching the steps. Or you're watching Mike or anyone else do some DIY bullshit, or you're watching just some how it's made video or whatever, There's a million fucking scenes where you're watching a character do something or just something happening for an unknown reason. And this show doesn't have a ton of, we know what the plan is, but then a wrench gets thrown into the plan, but we're still on the same page as the characters. Most of the time watching the show, we are not on the same page as the characters. And I don't know. It's an observation, It's just interesting that the show is fundamentally built up of that. I think the scenes of Jimmy running his elaborate creative scams is probably the best part of the show. But I also can think of a bunch of other scenes of watching Mike do some shit that I couldn't fucking care less about for vaguely unknown reasons. So watching the actual process is interesting. Sometimes it fucking blows. I can think of I think the first episode of season 2 was the one where we watch Mike wordlessly take apart a car for 20 minutes. I was begging for the kiss of death by the end of that. I guess if I really had to, I suppose Kim is probably the most interesting character out of the characters that the show thinks are interesting. You've got a girl who grew up with limited parental guidance, reserved and diligent, likely partly due to not wanting to be like her mother and or wanting to gain independence from her mother as quickly as possible. Kind of like Tiffany from Honey Pop, of all things. But also, reserved kids who don't relate or feel very comfortable with their household situation can sometimes be quiet, but, straight-laced, diligent students, so there's an aspect of that. Kim is disillusioned with the 1%. I guess her stealing the jewelry as a child is partly an act of rebellion, frustration with her situation, but perhaps wanting some sort of approval or attention from her mother, who often seems to neglect her. That's often a reason for petty shoplifting in children, is getting their parents to be forced to pay attention to them. Very common. But it could also reflect a bit of her resentment towards the wealthy. She takes herself very seriously and wants to push herself in a diligent way, but she also enjoys letting go of her inhibitions and having fun. And it may seem like she makes immoral or unhealthy choices in the present, which she does, like when she destroys real opportunities for herself or others, even ones for good causes that she agrees with, in order to sate her impulses and her inhibitions as her inhibitions grow weaker. But in some ways, I almost get the sense that this is an internal conflict of which choices are actually moral. Some people I've seen have argued that Kim's morality is more about her superego. Like, she's moral because of what she thinks she can get away with, but she has a low... It's easy to make her do immoral things once it's proven that she can get away with them. Obviously, on some level, no one would argue that Kim has no desire for a moral foundation. She does care about things. But I think it's possible that she considers herself treating herself to, her entertainment and thrills is a form of moral foundation, because she feels disillusionment to not doing that her whole life. She feels that all of her efforts in her life to be a straight-laced, diligent person didn't accomplish anything for good. It just made her better at making money for rich people. So she probably thinks that breaking the system is the moral thing to do, and that it's in some ways healthier for her to do what she wants and have fun rather than stifle herself in this box she was living in. Of course, this also could be me projecting my values onto a character that doesn't have that much evidence to support this interpretation. You know the deal. I don't need to explain it all to you. I think, relative to the rest of the cast, she kinda works. This is a series filled with annoying man-children who can't overcome the most basic of emotional barriers that literal toddlers are capable of coping with in healthy, mature ways, and characters that make the most insanely stupid choices humanly possible. But out of that box, that batch of obnoxious alien assholes, Kim is okay in my book. It's also fun to see Mike in an administrative role rather than a mercenary one, like we've gotten him for most of both series. I give Mike a lot of shit for being the biggest Mary Sue of the series, but he's not unlikable. As for the problems, I think the best place to begin is by talking about the audience engagement with a story. This show has so many storytelling problems, but one of the most common points is that you get where it's coming from. It's kind of like, I never empathize with people who say that Ozymandias is their favorite episode of Breaking Bad. I don't even really like Season 5 all that much. The problem is, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, An audience, theoretically, has seen a story before. I get it. I watched the first couple episodes of Season 1 of Breaking Bad, and I understood what the point was. I knew the ending already. Not through spoilers, but because it's fucking obvious what the past of the show will be. It's just there. You can see it. I didn't need to watch Season 5 to know everything that was going to happen. It's just the story that's being told. That's why I don't really care that much about episodes like Ozymandias, because they're just checking the boxes that were already put in place. I don't feel like giving credit to the episodes that hit easy targets. I give credit to the content that set up those targets to begin with. Do you know what I mean? I also don't really care much about concepts like canon or linear time in fiction, made-up bullshit. I don't look at characters, fictional characters, as if they're real people. I'm not a literal fucking disassociating insane person. So I don't really care when a fictional character dies in a fictional story. It's not like the character disappears. They still exist in the same way they already did. They're on the same pages. They're written on the same... they're eternally preserved in the content they already existed in. A character's death physically cannot remove something that already existed. And what's more, it's not even a limitation. The characters can still appear in flashbacks, prequels, in the future. You know, it's fiction. Life and death. The laws of reality. They are all formless and meaningless. There are no limitations. So, if an episode is just meant to be typified by, oh my fucking, holy fuck, a character died. Well, fuck off, I guess. You know, like, whoop-de-fucking-doo-dah-day, motherfucker. I'm sorry, I don't see how that's supposed to do anything for me. Sure, you can have a strong emotional scene or a whole episode, you know, you can have, like, a death scene stoke that emotional beat, whether it's just the death on... But when it's just the death on its own, just as a death, the plain fucking simple fact that they died as an event in the story, not as like a part of something dramatic or fun to watch, or any other interesting scene material, I could not fucking care less, man. Now, a ton of the scenes in this show take that for granted. A ton of them just forget that you, a thinking viewer with half a brain, can connect some basic dots. So we have a scene for fucking everything. Even if a 3-minute scene serves no purpose but to inform us one simple fact that we would have already assumed through basic common sense and understanding of story tropes, and that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, we will still waste 3 minutes on that scene. Let me play you some of my live reactions of watching Season 6 here. An ant. God, see, it's in shots like this where I really, like, have to wake myself up and be like, oh, right, I'm watching a show. I'm supposed to be watching a TV show. Oh, it's an ant in a field of, I don't know, like what, dead grass? Yellowed out grass? A single ant on a finger. I don't even think a single ant would be isolated from a group like that, but, oh, of course, yes. The ant, the circle of life, the ant on his finger, he was squashed like an ant, you know, this tiny, insignificant being next to all of this thing. There was a season earlier where ants were eating the ice cream that Jimmy dropped. Oh, come full circle, he dropped his ice cream when he was taken in by the cartel, and this is the cartel. Oh, he was ripped away from his everyday life of what he was comfortable, and the ant has come to claim the court. What the fuck am I watching? Jesus Christ, go! What the fuck? Like, what is this fucking scene informing me of? Oh, the twins arrived on the scene. The cops are here. I got it. Can we go? Can we go? Whatever symbolism you think you're implying, it's not that interesting. It's really corny, and it's fucking just go. I'm just looking at oh my fucking god, and nothing is happening. I have nothing to fucking talk about. Yes, they walk into the room. How long has it been from the last thing where a tiny speckle of information was given that was relevant in a plot or metaphorical, symbolic, narrative, thematic storytelling sense? Jesus Christ! Give me something! God, like, how far into this am I, and not a single fucking interesting thing has happened yet. Yeah, I'm over halfway through the first episode of Season 6. 32 minutes, whatever, 15 seconds in. Let me scroll through this. Opening scene is like a 4-minute montage of them just putting away Saul Goodman's stuff, presumably shortly after the events of Breaking Bad, or at least after they got, you know, they outed themselves, and they're just collecting his shit. So there's like the first shot with the colorful ties, that was alright, and then it just like goes on and on and on with nothing fucking interesting even remotely on screen or anything. We have Nacho running away, and he just gets told to do some basic shit. There's nothing interesting here. It's just like filler information just to fill in a scene, just to have a scene, but there's nothing fundamentally interesting about it. Lalo kills some people that I don't care about, and there's nothing interesting about it. I knew he was going to be alive, so there's nothing interesting there. Jimmy and Kim talk about fucking nothing. Nothing interesting there. The scene that I was already complaining about, where the twins arrive and see the damage, so that's just informing us that the twins are aware, and it goes on for fucking minutes just to inform us the twins are, like, nothing. Okay, next scene, they call Gus, tell him what happened. We don't know who killed, what's-his-face, who killed Lalo and his people. Oh shit. Oh, Nacho's compromised. Then we have Mike tell Gus for like the 19th fucking time that he should go easy on Nacho, because that gets more interesting every single time it happens. I can't wait for the fucking 50th time it happens. Then what? Then the prosecutor confronts Jimmy that Lalo left, which was obviously going to happen, and nothing amounts of it, so it doesn't. That fucking scene, god fucking damn it. And then the next scene, they go into this diner. Jimmy's talking to Kim, and they're just talking about the Howard, and just the 100th fucking scene in this entire show of the exact same thing, of just one or both of them talking about, doing something bad, and the other one's got, like, mixed feeling about it, not feeling it, and then they all just kind of, like, slowly look, like, embarrassed or non-committal, and they just, like, say nothing, and they just look down at the fucking ground for, like, fucking minutes on end, and this is also not informing us of anything. It's the same drawn-out ass scene we've seen over and over and over and over and over. The exact same fucking scene. Informs us nothing new. They're still talking about the same plan. It's not like there's more information now. And now I'm watching Varga or Nacho do some shit. So that is 32 minutes of nothing. 32 minutes of I could have skipped all of this because nothing has happened that was not just a fundamental fill-in-the-gaps fucking Mad Libs assumption. You know, like, that's the thing about, like, this writing especially, is that it really, these writers, Vince and whatever, really take for granted the fact that you know what they're doing. You know, like, they really take for granted the fact that a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end point, and that an audience knows that a story has a beginning, middle, and end. So, what I've watched, I can't believe this is the fucking first episode of a new season. Like, imagine, like, waiting for a new season, and you're finally excited, and you get this shit. 30 minutes of fucking nothing. 30 minutes of skippable garbage bullshit. And, God, man. Just hitting the same tired old beats over and over and over. Just beating that fucking dead horse over and over again. Got no idea, no new ideas, no fundamentally interesting ideas. So just fucking hit the same ass wells over and over again. Any wells that you can hit, draw the shot out for as long as you can. Don't, like, have information in the shot. Don't have, like, a lot of dense information that needs to be, digested or lingered on. No, just have very simple, very obvious information that is apparent at a glance, but just drag the shot out for, like, 4 fucking minutes. And Jesus Christ, what the fuck? But yeah, they really take for granted by the fact that you know, like, that if they set something up, you see what they're setting up. So every single scene so far in this 32 minutes that I've watched has been, other than the opening intro, which is just needlessly lengthy, for, like, it's kind of interesting, but it's not interesting enough to justify the amount of time you're spent staring at it. It's fucking, what is it, 5 minutes? Yeah, about 5 minutes of just the same information. And its aesthetic value peaks in the first, like, fucking 10 seconds. and then it just gets less interesting after that. But yeah, every single scene afterwards is just filling in the blanks. Autopilot. Literally assembly line fucking writing. Scenes that just exist because, oh, we need a scene confirming that character did the only logical thing that would have happened next. Bam, done, go. Oh, they learned about the thing they were obviously going to learn about and responded to it in the way that they were obviously going to respond to it, and we could have assumed every fucking second that's happened so far without having to watch this episode. Great. Great way to spend fucking 30 minutes. Jesus Christ. Now, this is not me complaining about the thematic writing just yet, but I just feel that a lot of the story could have been cut, and a lot of things could have been trimmed. Oh, good lord, they could have trimmed this shit down. And, yeah, it's just needlessly time-consuming in so many ways. Not a lot of bang for your buck per second of screen time. And no, I'm not talking about events or actions. I mean anything of value, anything of interest, metaphorism, thematic value, ambiguities, subtlety, fucking anything worth watching. It is just very sparse with worthwhile goods per second, per minute, per episode, you name it. This is one of the least intellectually demanding pieces of media I have ever borne witness to. Okay, take like, the scene in Season 6 with Gus and his gay bartender friend. That scene, by count, 6 minutes on the dot. 6 minutes. Keep that in mind. Now that scene tells us, have you ever had gay thoughts, Lamau? And that he resists the gay. That's the whole fucking scene. 6 minutes! Don't get it twisted.
6. Listen to the words I'm saying. Don't tell me other shit. Well, one time there was 4. Look, dude, you're gonna end up outside with guns ablaze. And he loves having sex with red names. Okay? Listen to what I'm saying. 6.
6 fucking minutes, and the only information that was relayed, really, to the audience, was that Gus has suitors, but ultimately rejects them and isolates himself. 6 minutes of being slapped in the face with their flirting, over and over and over. It's not enough that the scene is just on the nose, beating you in the face with the obvious, slapping you in the face with its fucking information, with its message, but also slapping you 10 times in this one scene with the same message. What else are they going to do with those 6 minutes? Obviously, they have to fill that 6 minutes with the exact same piece of information they already told you, shoved in your face over and 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 over again. 6 fucking minutes of telling you one thing ham-fistedly. 6 minutes. 6 minutes, and your brain is so fucking slow, you can only process out one tiny piece of information. 6 minutes, one piece of info. 6 minutes. You fucking hear me? 6 minutes. Pause this video. Just pause it right now. Sit quietly. Think alone to yourself. 6 minutes. Set a timer. Stopwatch. I don't give a shit. 6 minutes. This is a show where you can go on your phone, click to another tab, ad, fucking scroll through Twitter, whatever, click back, and you won't have missed a goddamn thing. 6 minutes. There's nothing interesting about the scene. There's nothing interesting about their flirting dialogue. It's just a bunch of completely meaningless nothing. It sounds completely fake. It doesn't sound like real human flirting. It sounds like generic, tropey, fucking TV writer trying to make a ham-fisted dialogue to shove into a flirting scene. The worst example of this, from Better Call Saul that lives rent-free in my head, is the scene of episode 1 of season 3, where the brothers are talking, and there's this god-awful dialogue between them about, like, their past memories of childhood. Oh, we used to be such close brothers. You remember that, brother? How we were brothers? Here, let us tell the audience corny anecdotes from our childhood. Oh, you know, I just now remembered a funny story to tell tell you, my dearest brother, not the audience. I don't know who the audience is. I'm not speaking directly to the audience. These fucking Hallmark anecdotes, this fake-ass bullshit. Oh, you remember it too? Oh yeah, me too. The darndest thing. It just sprouted in my mind. Now I'm going to again, unprompted, just exposit some more completely random fucking fake ass sounding TV script generic ass childhood memory dialogue. Oh yeah, you're right. It was. Oh, your memory is spot. Oh, good times, buddy. Good times. Like holy shit, this dialogue is so fucking bad.
Oh my God. The Adventures of Mabel. I haven't thought about this in forever. You remember this, Chuck?
I do.
Harry Thurston Peck.
Yeah. Mabel goes into the mountain and she meets the king of the brownies and he gives her some kind of super delicious jelly and holy crap, 1912.
Yeah, belonged to Grammy Davenport. She wrote her name in it. She was reading that to her school kids the year the Titanic went down.
Damn. And Mom read it to me.
I read it to you. You don't remember?
Yeah. I do now that you say it, yeah. What was I, like 5 or 6?
You had this weird night light that you were so crazy about. It was
Daffy Duck.
It was some Daffy Duck ripoff with this weird red
Mouth.
bill.
Oh, yeah, the bill.
Yeah. And it used to get so hot, we thought it would burn the house down, but we wouldn't let anybody touch it.
Yeah, you got a great memory, Chuck. The red bill and everything. Hey, what was the name of that little girl that lived 3 houses up from us? She had like a page boy haircut, and she was always in the dirt. Oh.
I'm gonna go next. Brendan, I feel that you're a real go-getter, and someday, maybe I feel that you're gonna relax and enjoy life with your father and Linda.
Stop already! Jeez, nobody talks this way. This is unnatural.
This is fucking NPC dialogue. Come on, guys. And this is all over the place. Like Jimmy as Gene. Talking to that mall cop dude, right? He's just making these vague, meaningless NPC statements like, oh, you watched the game? Oh, I thought this was their year. Hey, I hope your daughter, of the given name of Lizzie, gives a remarkable performance on her upcoming spelling bee at the school, which I know about because we are such good friends, my good friend. Nobody fucking talks like this. It's like the show wants you to see it as NPC dialogue. Like, these aren't even real conversations. They're fucking metaphors for conversations that a real human might actually have. It's deliberately nothing. They're deliberately cardboard mannequins. Part of this problem is that so many of the unimportant characters in this show are just lazy stereotypes. All of the old people that Jimmy meets with the sandpiper case for, they're just all lazy stereotypes of kindly old folks. None of them feel human even slightly. They're just stereotypes. There's a scene in Waterworks where Kim is hanging out with those other housewives, I guess, that she's friends with now, and I realized, oh my god, they're not human. They're skinwalkers. They're lizard people in their fucking skin suits. They're just fucking lazy-ass stereotypes. Their whole personality, every word in their mouth is just checking off a stereotype box. It took me until that moment to realize how many generic stereotypes are used in place of believable human character in this show. And I mean, I always, from season 1, I always complained about the cliched old folks, but I didn't stop to think about how much it affects everyone else. Fuck, even the actual characters like Howard still have a ton of his character filled up with placeholder stereotypes rather than an actual personality. And these are, again, surface-level stereotypes. It's not like interesting, observations about the world. It's just a bunch of fucking cliche drivel. It's bullshit. It's so fucking on the nose. Honestly, peak subtlety. Never before has a television show had such immaculate subtlety. Just like the rest of the show. There's no real substance to any of this dialogue. Everything they're saying is so clearly paper thin. Clearly. They're not talking about anything that could be remotely considered real or human. They're just talking around a couple meaningless names, vague, meaningless NPC phrases and statements. There are other shows and movies that people call slow, but they're wrong. They're just relatively uneventful. You can be uneventful, but still have a lot of information relayed to the audience to pick up on and unpack, think about over that period of time. This show thinks so little of its own audience. It thinks so little of your tiny little fucking addled minds. It thinks that you can only handle one tiny piece of information shoved in your face, spoon-fed to you for 6 minutes. 6 minutes straight. Nothing more. 6 minutes. You know the real death knell for how fucking long this show's scenes are for no reason? You know the supposed 3-minute heist on the department store? From start to finish, it has multiple jump cuts, and yet the actual on-screen runtime of the show takes longer than 3 minutes. Yeah. I've said this, since the show began, but Better Call Saul exists for the sake of itself. It obviously just exists to have runtime. And, just be a show. It exists to just be a product to sell and make money. And yeah, obviously all TV shows have that goal. But with Better Call Saul, it's so obvious that the writing and pacing and directing and shit just exists to drag everything out and add a bunch of pointless scenes you didn't need that you could have trimmed down or made more efficient. Pointless conflicts that mean nothing and just repeat themselves. Just make up a bunch of excuses to have more runtime so we can drag out this show and keep it on the air. That was already one of my major criticisms with Breaking Bad as it kept going. Once it got really popular, it started making more and more narrative choices based around its popularity. Like, 99% of Jesse's existence past season 1 is due to the pure popularity and fan service appeal. There's a lot of honestly removable plot lines in seasons 4 and 5 of Breaking Bad that are not integral to the main overarching story of Walter's transformation, that just fucking exist to fill time and have more shit on screen, have more conflicts to watch, and keep dragging out a popular, successful show. Well, Better Call Saul is that, but from its very inception and literally all of it. Better Call Saul is a show that would honestly be 20 times better if they just didn't even try to have a story. If they just had entertaining stuff like Jimmy's scam scenes and didn't try to shove in all this surface-level cringe-ass nothing. Here again, let me just compile some of my relevant arguments from previous videos that I've made on Better Call Saul and maybe some other shit, so I don't have to redo it all from scratch. Now, for a clear fan service show, most spin-offs that are made that are just built around the popular characters from something else are entirely fan servicey and shitty. And this show is not entirely fan servicey and shitty, so I have to commend them that even when pursuing bad ideas, the content is still fairly good. Like, if they weren't as good with basic writing, creative presentation, clever little ideas for each episode, clever scene direction and all that stuff, clever cinematography, if they weren't as good as they are, the needless more that they kept adding to Breaking Bad would have been as low quality as other shows that we've seen that suffer from the fucking fan service hammer of just constantly being extended. Quality the whole way through, but it also just feels kind of boring and pointless when you stop to consider it, because the show doesn't seem like it was made with a strong concept in mind like Breaking Bad was. Literally, the plot of Better Call Saul so far is, Jimmy could very easily solve all of the problems in his life and just, live a normal, healthy life or whatever, or just be satisfied like any other fucking human being, but he just has some magic fucking criminal gene that makes him sabotage himself, and not in a BoJack Horseman kind of self-sabotage way. Like, the plot is literally just, Jimmy is naturally inclined to be a criminal. God personally reached down and mandated that he should be a criminal. So when everything is perfectly fine, and there's no stress or there's no real large struggle forcing him to take action, he just still does a criminal thing to make a conflict happen that didn't need to be there. To want to. With Jimmy, we see that he's more than capable of living an honest life without any issues many times. But when things are going too well in the plot, oh no, screenwriters, do your thing. The concept is so fucking stupid. I was very resistant to even accepting that this was actually what they want you to believe. Like, Walter White is a believable character with actual human concerns. Jimmy McGill has a magic dumbass screenwriting condition where the writers that run his universe just shove their hands up his ass like a fucking sock puppet and make him do insanely dumb shit just to force the plot to keep having conflicts so we can keep following this character and we can keep making a show that we can make money off of. This not only poisons Jimmy's characterization because it's just so fucking dumb and contrived, it also poisons, say, the conflict with Chuck. When Chuck first started saying all that shit about how Jimmy is just born to be a slimy criminal and how he can't change despite him living honestly for years, he lived in the mailroom for years working an honest job with no issues. Busting his ass, putting himself through law school in addition, all of which he did without this bullshit fucking retarded criminal itch getting the better of him and making him lash out and do toxic or self-destructive things. I thought the point was that Chuck was just fucking retarded, right? because everything that he was saying sounds retarded. But no, the dumbass universe shifts around to force Chuck's idiotic point of view to be validated by making Jimmy do the bad things he had literally no reason to do. 'Cause just criminal instincts, bruh. You know, this tries to force Chuck into a moral gray area that shouldn't even exist in the first place. It's so obvious that the ham-fisted point they're trying to make with this brotherly conflict is something like, oh, self-fulfilling prophecy, because Chuck treated him like a criminal and never gave him a chance, he became a criminal. But it's just so contrived and stupid in the way that it's done. You know, more than anything, this is an example of the message of the show being this, like, sloppy piece of shit that doesn't really make sense in context, because the dumbass message of the show was never the point of this show or the point of these characters to begin with. Like, the point of the show is, oh, fans of Breaking Bad like Saul and Mike, so we'll force a story to play out with those characters, and we'll just try to pull out some themes out of our ass, try to mold them over these characters, try to make something work here. Fan service first, maybe we'll slap together some dumbass themes that don't really make any fucking sense in the process. This is a really important point that I want to isolate here. This is the kind of writing that you get when writers think that they're fucking geniuses, but they actually have nothing to say. They're trying to present this story like it's an artsy, profound examination of deep human concepts, but it's bullshit because all of their themes and messages make no sense to real life. Real people would never in a million years act like these characters. They wouldn't. They just wouldn't. There's nothing in the incredibly vague, surface-level-ass messages the show tries to promote as though it's so fucking deep that will actually matter to your real life. You can watch BoJack Horseman and have a life-changing experience that you can carry over into your real fucking existence. You watch this if you just want to, like, being pretentious and telling yourself that you're so sophisticated without there actually being any substance to it. I've asked this before, and I'll ask it again. Has anyone watching this show found its messages to mean something or teach them something in real life? Do they see themselves inside these fucking insane man-children? Does the show teach them something about people or society or reality that isn't painfully obvious or makes any fucking sense? I don't think so. The only excuses for Jimmy's alien behavior is that he has a screenwriting disease that forces him to make bad choices, and the stupid idea that Howard mentions once.
It's Psych 101. You want to get caught.
Yeah, pretty sure when I took Psych 101, I don't remember that being in the curriculum. Sounds like dumb TV bullshit to me. High quality. It's a high quality, bad idea. You know, it doesn't have grounding. It doesn't have a through line that works. The plot and themes would be whatever popped into the heads of the writers during the screenwriting phase. They'd shove these characters into never-ending conflicts either way, regardless of whatever they came up with them to do. Sure, some of the ideas that pop into their heads to justify the show's existence are better than others, but the fact remains that they're still just half-assed justifications. They're scrambling to justify this show that has no good reason to exist. All that quality and style and clever shots and good dialogue and scene pacing, all this polish around nothing. It's a finely polished excuse, you know, and almost everything I've seen with Mike has been boring as fuck. The episodes are just so damn long. Every scene is long. The shots are long. Every scene of a character just doing some mundane thing, like, you know, some knowing expression on a character's face. Every goddamn shot is just so long. Sometimes the border between tasteful and just wasting my fucking time is a little hard to see. And I get bored really easily, if you couldn't tell. More of this show. I mean, people treat both of these shows with this insane reverence, but they aren't fucking Shakespeare, okay? All the clever ideas and little symbolic moments or whatever are all completely isolated. They're just little knickknacks, just one clever thought here, some nifty idea here. Oh, this episode starts with someone's death and ends with the birth of a child. Oh, what a fucking clever, fascinating idea. It's so deep, right? Nothing in either series is so foundationally deep or well-crafted that every single element in the series and in the episodes in the show is vital and serves every other element. You know, and so many people confuse fan service and, like, hype with actual artistry. That's why you get so many people that unironically think that, say, Ozymandias is the height of television, just because it has payoffs and oh shit moments that activate people's lizard brains, even though so much of what people like about that episode is because of the work done by previous episodes, not anything specifically great about the writing of that episode. It's just the episode where events happen to, climax. To get an idea of what I mean, just watch something that's with a really tight presentation, where the whole episode is paced perfectly, and it's riveting from start to finish, where it just builds up and it flows with its own ideas while still making use of what has already been established. Something so good in every aspect that flows so perfectly that you forget that you're alive until the episode finally ends and you see the credits. I'm not going to make some dumbass broad statement about what is the best episode of all television. I don't fucking care, but just to go watch some solid ones off the top of my head and recent times that I've been into, go watch, like, say, Free Churro from BoJack Horseman, or episode 4 of Odd Taxi is a recent show. That episode's really fucking tight. It's really tight. It just flows perfectly. It's just like a fucking ride. It's an experience, man. And it's not like an experience in like an action-y, anything like that. It's just like the actual moment-to-moment writing is so well composed, and it's so well structured. Those both have what these shows miss: a complete structure where everything was perfectly crafted and all the fat was trimmed out to make the optimal, ideal, episodic experience. Hell, I even think that, like, the Rick Lantis mix-up is a better single episode of television than any episode from Breaking Bad or what I've seen from Better Call Saul. I want to rewatch those episodes because I want to rewatch those episodes, Go out of my way, watch them again, because every second of them feels great to watch. Sure, I'll look up my favorite scenes from something like Breaking Bad on YouTube or some shit, but I don't want to go back and watch any given entire episode again and again. Most people just, like the quote-unquote satisfying parts of a story, so the big payoffs after a lot of build-up. I, on the other hand, like good writing, so I get equal satisfaction out of good build-up or good payoff. I don't really care which one I consume. I usually prefer good build-up, since it's inherently more subtle than most payoff moments. Share just like not being as impressed with the series as the fans are. But on that point, this is something that can't really be avoided. Like, I've read the comments from these people who think that they know something that I don't. That, like, they think that they've identified some little hidden gem in the writing that I haven't. I've read descriptions and watched videos on what I should find interesting about the story and characters, and yeah, everything that I've ever seen that anyone has said or pointed out were things that I already was aware of and already understood. Like, I pay attention when I consume media. I do, okay? I know that, say, Mike went after the guy he was trying to kill at the end of Season 2 because that innocent dude got killed and the shit that Mike was previously involved with, guilt or whatever. It's not like I miss that. I just think that it's stupid and boring and I'm not interested in watching it. See, everyone has a threshold for what they consider to be, I guess, natural developments to a story. And by definition, anything that is not natural is contrived. I am a pretty sensitive person to contrivances. Some I recognize but choose to overlook, and some bother me more when they encroach on fundamental values. Let's look at Mike in Season 2, specifically him going after Hector, when for all intents and purposes, he could have just not done that and just stayed home, and his story would literally be over. It would literally end right there. Now, some things to keep in mind that impact what I consider to be natural developments in a story versus contrived storytelling. I know that this is a prequel. Therefore, I know that this is a story that is trying to get characters from point A to point B. That can be taken for granted very easily. Since you expect the characters to get where they were in Breaking Bad, sometimes you don't really, question the logic of how they got there. You just accept it, like, oh yeah, he goes into the criminal underworld. But really, was that a natural development of the story that I'm watching right now, or was the character just forced to go in this direction in the story because the script needs him to go in this direction? So the fact that they're writing the characters to a established endpoint is the first thing that makes me doubt the authenticity of any given plot development automatically, even if it is something that is natural. You know, the next thing is screen time and fan service. I know that they want to make more episodes of this show, and I know that they want to keep these popular characters in and these actors in it and all that. So I know that they want to write the show in ways and in directions where they can stay on screen and have more shit to be actively doing, which is another bias that they have that drives how they write those characters. Both of these are pretty major factors that impact the writing. Do I really think Michael Ehrmantraut would do all this shit and go out of his way to seek revenge on Hector for this one innocent guy that got killed, or even before that, just because Hector was like an asshole to his family, and that he would really go out of his way to put his family in danger again, one, by making more enemies, and whatever, okay? Even if Mike was partially involved in said guy's death, you know, like the innocent guy that got killed, or is this just all awfully convenient to the story that Mike would push this conflict when he really doesn't need to at all? He doesn't have any grand objective or anything that really forces him to take any sort of action like this. He has many reasons not to do this shit. Also, going after Hector could lead to more family for Mike's family that he's trying to protect, and that's supposedly why he's offended by this and wants to go after Hector in the first place, because his family was threatened. Hector will just be replaced by another evil asshole anyways, even if he's killed or put in prison, probably. Does Mike even strike me as the kind of person who has, like, no other outlet for this kind of anger or this kind of sense of justice or whatever? I mean, what do I know about him? He's a kind of dirty ex-cop that didn't have strong morals. He's very weirdly the most capable person who's ever lived for some reason, even though he's just like he's just an ex-cop, you know. And then there's the half-measure experience that he tells Walter about in Breaking Bad, some other shit that he references, his son's death, his disappointment in him as an authority figure, his own disillusionment with the law enforcement after that personal experience and personally experiencing so much police corruption. That's what we know about the character, okay? I just don't buy it. I just don't think this Mike decided to continue to be a part of this plot when he could have easily just had a fucking happily ever after and, like, if you're feeling bad, just get therapy or something, man. Like, this is because Mike has no foundation to him as a character, unlike, say, Walter White. I don't know what is most important to Mike, so I can't buy into any decisions that he makes. You know, they can just tell me whatever the fuck they make him decide to do, and I just have to accept it. I know that his son was important to Mike, but it seems like he wants to do right by his remaining family and his granddaughter. He has some sense of justice, but not enough to not be morally flexible. You know, I don't have a moment here where I think, oh yes, I see, this is the very natural development of the story, naturally based on his established, you know, beliefs and morals and, you know, worldviews and whatever. This is totally natural and the natural decision for him to make. No, they could have just as easily and just as believably written and said, fuck it, Mike decided to ignore Hector and deal with his guilt/anger or irritation in another way, and he just took care of his family after that and didn't interact with the criminal world after that. You know, I would have just as much reason to accept that as the decision that his character made. It would be more logical, in my opinion, for him to do that. I think it's all one giant, stupid contrivance. It's not because I missed something in the plot that these idiots think is so subtle that only the most enlightened viewers could ever possibly pick up on. I just don't buy it. And even if I did buy it, I'd still think it was fucking boring. It's really goddamn boring. You know, I know that's not like a formal criticism. Anyone can call anything boring, but it's kind of the most important factor. There's just nothing I find even remotely compelling about any of Mike's scenes. His character is uninteresting to me. The things that he's doing are uninteresting to me. The conflicts bore me. The scenes drag on and on. I wanted to add a bit more to this point. Everyone who wants to defend the writing of media like this always leaps back to whatever excuses the story gave for them to use themselves. So I imagine some fucking neckbeard fuckface will be in the comments saying, jeez, don't you know that Mike feels guilty about his involvement in the process of his son's death, and this other innocent guy was also vaguely caused by his actions, and it has more meaning to him because it all relates back to his son. Yes, I fucking shut the fuck up, halfwit. I know what the story wants me to fucking believe. I choose not to believe it because I think that it's fucking stupid. And it's not interesting. Explaining the unsubtle bullshit story to me will not make it interesting to me. At the end of the day, it's just a guy whose negative emotions that are not super unique make him make self-destructive choices that are really inhuman. And that's about as deep as it goes. What the fuck is interesting about that, huh? Where's the unique idea? Where's the clever observations of reality? Where's the art? There is no art. It's pretension. It's just pretension. What's that fucking line from Gordon Ramsay? This is Master Chef, not Master Bait. Yeah, that one. This is not a masterpiece. This is Master Bait. It's a big fucking circle jerk where Vince and Peter just fucking don't fucking unzip my pants right now. Fucking watch this show just like they are. Fucking getting off on how enlightened they think they are. This is why you get a bunch of obnoxiously drawn-out shots that they think are so profound and brilliant and worth watching. Like, they think it's their excuse. They think it's worth your time to spend 6 minutes watching fucking nothing. Just these long, drawn-out shots because they think it's so fucking smart, even though they're drastically overstaying their welcome. That's why you get so much character writing that tries to act like these characters are so complex and interesting and multi-layered, but really the story has nothing to actually say other than some preschool level shit or some 14-year-old Reddit mod philosophy oh-so-deep shit. The characters aren't complex. They aren't interesting. This is fucking dime a dozen characterization. You know what they fucking reduce Gus to in this show? Gus is so fucking obnoxious, man. He's just a blithering pissant fuckboy here. He's a loser. He never does anything. Lalo is actually putting in work on the screen. Gus just sits around with his dick and balls hanging out, whining about his pathetic revenge quest. Fucking strongest, coolest kingpin on the Mexico border, and he's just reduced to this toddler, this fucking toddler who can't deal with his emotions in a normal human way. Just this pussy on a warpath. I hate to talk about the boys again when they're not really comparable to this show for the most part, but like take Butcher. Butcher is the same character as Gus in this, but just much better. Much more complex, much more grounded of a portrayal. The Boys is starkly aware, as a show, its writing is starkly aware of how pathetic Butcher is for his inability to let go of his anger and grief, and it also provides a foundation for his nihilistic rage against the world and people that he ascribes this hatred towards, formed by his abusive childhood and formative experiences and fostering of violent tendencies and a lack of self-preservation. He's on a warpath because he's believably suicidal, doesn't really care about anything that strongly, and is just a bitterly hateful person who struggles to try to feel a little better about himself and the world where he can. And most importantly, the show acknowledges that he is sad and pathetic. I'm not saying The Boys is a Shakespearean masterpiece either, but it just goes to show you how fucking pretentious Better Call Saul is, that its writing is worse, with less substance and less grounding, but it is more praised because of pure pretentiousness. Gus and everyone else in this show, they're all pathetic. They're all insane. They don't have believable motivations for the bonkers choices they make. They don't make sense, they're not complex, and the way the show tries to present their characterization insults your intelligence actively. If the point of the show is that everyone is just a whiny, pathetic, manlet sociopath, then fine, I guess. But that's not the impression I get of what the show thinks it's trying to say. Maybe the point is that Howard is the only character that actually went to therapy for his problems instead of, I don't know, what does the show think is believable for a person to make if they're, like, sad about a loved one dying? I don't know, nuking a continent? Some other similar choice we're supposed to find believable from these fucking twerps? So Howard is the only reasonably sane human being, and everyone else is this evil lizard person. These characters don't have interesting worldviews. None of them have anything interesting to talk about. They don't have interesting personalities. They're all kind of the same personality, in a way. They're all copy and paste of sorts. They're just all the exact same mopey shitbag loser. They can toss in as many whatever motivations as they want. Take Jimmy. They can toss in all this shit. They can toss in, oh, he had his friend Marco, who he ran scams with, and he felt an attachment to, but he died. Oh, his father was taken advantage of, and Jimmy didn't respect him, and he was a troubled youth. And oh, his brother never supported him. And oh, any other fucking thing. But, like, where does it all go? Where's the complexity? These are all just different excuses just piled on meaninglessly. They don't interact with each other in interesting ways. They're the same excuse for him to be the same person. No matter how much you pile on, I still won't buy the insane choices he makes. I won't see them as believable or human. So, is there any narrative value in trying to come up with any and every excuse for why Jimmy has bad influences or he's a shitty person? Complexity requires internal conflict. What's that fucking quote? The only thing worth viewing in art is the human mind in conflict with itself. The human heart in conflict with itself. There needs to be intrigue. There needs to be a fascinating way that the conflicting motivations, emotions, and beliefs of a character collide inside their minds, or at least give them an interesting, unique worldview, or an interesting role in the story and how they interact with the other elements. When the internal conflict is just, oh, he has all these reasons to try to justify why he's a shitbag con artist, and no fleshing out of the other side or anything else, no fleshing out of any motivation that he had to not do stupid shit, or no fleshing out of his worldview and how he, what he believes in or anything, we see no intriguing internal conflict in his choices. It's just all bad choices, all the time. His decisions and the way his motivations break down is never interesting because the result in every last fucking internal conflict is he chooses the scumbag con man option. There is zero internal complexity. There's nothing interesting about the exact same result to the exact same boring-ass internal conflict, the exact same choice over and over and over, which always does this fucking same scene. Where is something to be remotely interested in? Huh? Where the fuck is it? Oh, I wonder what kinds of decisions he's about to make in his head right now. Golly gee, I just have no idea what he's gonna do next. It couldn't possibly be the thing that will be shitty and cause unnecessary problems. I've watched reactor videos, content creators watching this show, and just watching them on like the 200th fucking time that a character is faced with a choice, and still, number 200, seeing them being like, oh, come on, Jimmy, or oh, come on, Kim, you can make the right choice. Make the right choice. It fills me with both humor and dread of the human race. You've seen the same fucking thing 199 times, but still on number 200, you're still entertaining this? You're still entertaining this idea? You still have some air of tension or suspense or intrigue over the character and their choices? You don't know what's gonna happen when it's always the same thing? What the fuck, man? And fate. Really? Fate. We're going with fate now. That's an argument, huh? It's not heavily contrived writing that's obviously just forcing the story unnaturally where the writers are too clumsy to make it go smoothly and believably. No, apparently it's a commentary on fate. Does anyone actually think that means anything? Fate? Fucking fate? What's your excuse? What's your excuse for the profound human messaging to real life and real fucking, I don't know, existentialism or whatever that the so-called fate has to offer, huh? Where's the commentary? Where's the lesson here? Where's the dramatic irony? Fate? Really? Fate? You have the fucking audacity to say that the story is about fate. A word that means nothing. Fate! What's the commentary on fate then? Huh? Is the message supposed to be that if you're writing a prequel series and you have no good ideas, you can just write it to where it needs to go and then claim that your story is about fate and that's why your characters wound up where they had to go? Fate? You don't see the irony there? You don't see how you're getting fucking played? And you're just getting fucking rickrolled by the showrunners? It's the ultimate circular reasoning. What is the prequel about that has to get everything to the events of Breaking Bad? It has to get to one specific endpoint. Well, it's about fate. They're fated to get there. What a fucking excuse, man. You can justify anything with that fate. What a goddamn joke. I can't believe people eat that shit up. Fucking fate. You want to know a piece of media that is actually about fate and uses the concept intelligently rather than as a lazy excuse to have shitty contrived storytelling to just pump out a fan service prequel? Again, episode 4 of Odd Taxi, Tanaka's Revolution. Self-contained episode, only 20 minutes, and it tells the story start to finish, one of the densest, most tightly crafted episodes of TV I have seen in years. It's about the life and decay of this young adult guy, Tanaka, and the development of his mental illness, depression, addictions, specifically to the addictive qualities and mechanics of gacha games. The episode talks about fate by ingeniously using the concept of gacha mechanics. Rolls, rare drops, incredibly small percent chances, rolling the dice. It's a mental deep dive into his own awareness of his mental instability and unwellness, his internal fixations, and him trying to reflect on what in his life he can ascribe to his unwellness, his unhappiness, etc. The concept of fate, or these gacha dice rolls, is both an internal reflection of the character, a way of rationalizing his miserable existence, as well as a social commentary on the percent likelihood of any individual in society falling into the exact same dice roll. It's about societal inequality and the paths people are placed on due to the fortune of their circumstances, but it's also about the toxic concept of fate and how people look at random events in a chaotic reality and ascribe meaning to them through fatalism. Tanaka's rare circumstances were at fault to some degree, but it was also the idea of fate itself that contributed to keeping Tanaka from solving his issues or bettering himself, because he ascribed himself to his perceived fate. He's sick in the head. He's sick. He struggles to find meaning in anything, which is why he's so susceptible to addictions like gacha games, which fill his mind with dopamine. This episode goes all in, by the way. It legit talks about the chemical reactions in the brain that occur with this kind of mental disease. And when he struggles to find meaning, well, the meaning he can apply to his reality is that of fate. After all, gambling and gacha mechanics, as addictions, rely on your impulsive sense of destiny, despite the factual odds. Your sense of fate, of your next roll being fateful, that you'll earn a big win, is the disease. The episode follows him from his early childhood and ends with him taking a gun in public and going on a shooting spree, embracing that course of action as he perceived it to be his fate, God's intervention, the rare circumstance which provided him with the opportunity to do just that. Now that's an episode of television with a clever application of the concept of fate and actually means something to multiple aspects of reality. It's relatable, it's real, it tingles your brain every fucking second of runtime. It makes you really think. It's not just a meaningless word floating around the ethos. Fate! Sure. Nothing that he does in this episode couldn't have been crunched down to probably 2 or 3 minutes of total screen time. Am I really compelled to watch him go step by step in researching this tracking device, in taking apart this car? Why would that compel me? Am I supposed to just have an appreciation for the hard work that goes into each step of what Mike does? But, the plot will still have him magically do whatever it wants at any time. You can't have a character that pretends to be realistic in that he will wait in a location for hours and hours and hours just watching someone to do a job, but you also expect me to believe that he's a ninja who can appear anywhere he's needed anytime, like he did in, say, Breaking Bad to ward off Walt away from Gus when Walt went to Gus's house. He's just this overpowered character like any other that the show will just sometimes pretend to be this grounded individual, down to earth, when they feel like forcing you to watch him do some incredibly mundane ass shit. We don't praise David Cage for doing that. Why should we praise Gilligan? Or some combination of the three. Just so you know, you can express subtle information, but still do it quickly. It's all a matter of intake. How much can a person reasonably be expected to catch while watching something? I love content where the information, subtle or explicit, is thrown at you fast. I love soaking up information in any form. This show is slow when it's trying to convey something subtle, quote-unquote, but in that sense, it's still drip-feeding you the information very slowly. Like, this minute, the characters will explicitly tell you this information, and then we get this scene of a fuck-all-nothing happening, and a character's expression, that action and actions that drip-feed you that information, you know? Why can't the explicit information and the subtle information be delivered faster, or like at the same time? You know, I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, I fucking get it. I see what's happening. You know, like, I get what you're trying to show me. Can we fucking move on, please? To more information, please? If you can't use evidence to explain how the plot and themes and characters and message are more fascinating and deep than I think they are, then you can't pretend like there's some incredibly deep masterpiece hiding in all the subtlety that I'm somehow ignoring. As for the quote-unquote subtle character moments and facial expressions, and these fucking idiots wouldn't know subtlety if they saw it, this shit is not subtle. Everything in the show, everything that the show wants you to pick up on is pretty goddamn obvious and in your face. But whatever. I've seen people jizz their pants at the fact that Jimmy's, like, coffee thing doesn't fit into his car's cup holder, because apparently that's the first time they've ever seen basic symbolism. It really is mainly pretension, you know? Some people think this is the most ingenious shit of all time, that it's the only show to ever do anything that it does with its presentation or its characterization or its ideas, and I'm just someone who happens to know that that's objectively not true. And hell, I don't even think the show is bad. Like I said, I think it's actually pretty reasonable to think that it's one of the best shows on TV, at least currently. I can easily see how someone would think that for legitimate reasons. But a lot of these people can't fathom the fact that someone gets the entire show and is still relatively uninterested in it. And they seemingly haven't experienced the countless other pieces of media throughout all of history that are much deeper and more layered than this show is. These characters are not the deepest and most nuanced characters ever written, guys, okay? I think there's a little bit of people overhyping Better Call Saul's writing, but mainly I think these people just aren't familiar with other stories that already exist that are equally or more nuanced. Because, yeah, fans really fucking try to drive home the point that this show has the most, like, dense characters to ever exist, man. They're so fucking dense. They have more going on than real living human beings, dude. You know, you don't even fucking know how dense they are. And that's just generally their justification for claiming the series to be the greatest authority in existence, higher than Jesus Christ, Gordon Ramsay, and Gold Lewis Dickinson combined. So, yeah, once you clear up that delusion, mainly my own personal issues with the series are as a viewing experience. It's just not in my nature or in my taste to watch long-ass scenes with very little being accomplished or very little being actually expressed over a given period of time. Like I said, subtle or explicit, you can deliver information to the viewers much, much faster than this. Subtle doesn't need to be slow and tedious and time-consuming. You know, and on a fundamental level, at least with my value system regarding art, I think it's clear that Breaking Bad is at least better than this show. Because Breaking Bad is a character study about a well-defined character that was conceived from the ground up, and then taking his logical, natural destination of the character, and all the decisions and progressions of the plot are natural. You know, like, let's think about the plot of Breaking Bad. Like, okay, he needs money, makes meth, you know, whatever. I mean, he turns down the job because of his established toxic masculinity that defines his entire personality and all of his beliefs, like his refusal to accept charity, all the things like that. They all tie into this sort of, like, macho man aesthetic and kind of personality he's trying to present himself as, whatever. But, like, the actual plot events, you know, they need to make more money, so they kill Crazy 8, they need to make more money, so they start dealing with Tuco, then Tuco causes problems, they have to kill him, then they're like, okay, why don't we distribute, and then they run into issues with that, and then they solve those issues, you know, natural issues that you would expect to result from that, and then they're like, okay, well, we need more money, we need to expand, and so they expand naturally, you know, the natural progression of the objectives of the characters. And by expanding, they go into the natural problems of that, where Combo gets shot, and then they're like, okay, shit, also Badger gets picked up by the cops, and they have to, so also another more or less natural development that's going to happen. It's going to be a problem they run into by doing this shit to solve their established problems. Everything stems naturally from the original fucking conflict, and just goes forward. Everything they do is totally natural. They don't just make up new shit, you know? And then, until they get to Gus, and then Gus is kind of, like, dragged out for a long time, I guess because Gus is really popular, but whatever. Then, let's talk about, like, Better Call Saul, you know, where so many of the actual plot derangements or anything, because the problem is there's no foundation to it. Like, there's no long-term goal or objective to it other than just the writing has to get the characters to where they are at Breaking Bad. So it's like, oh, all of a sudden now Jimmy in season 1, like episode 8 or 9 or whatever, Jimmy discovers this Sandpiper Crossing case out of the blue. This miracle fucking case just lands in his lap out of nowhere. It's just, okay, now this is a new element in the plot. Or, oh, he's going back to Marco. Oh, Marco died, I guess. Marco's almost never brought up again, so I feel very baffled at his inclusion, but whatever. Oh, he doesn't want to do the job because he's just being a mopey, whiny asshole, and he repeats that a million fucking times in the show, and it gets really old. Oh, he doesn't like his new job. Okay, he's doing a job. He doesn't like his new job. Starts doing this. Okay, the bank, Mesa Verde, comes out again out of the blue. You know, it just, like, enters into the plot all of a sudden. It just, like, becomes it's not a natural development of what the characters are already going for. It just appears, and then all of a sudden is, like, a major plot element. You know, like, all these things just sort of bubble up in contrived ways. Like, just more weird, random shit happens, rather than everything progressing in a natural way from a clear start point, just flowing like a nice river. But whatever. So yeah, Better Call Saul is a character study where all the characters are being retrofitted to have character arcs that aren't the natural result of being intricately crafted with this specific combination of values and experiences and personality traits like Walter was, but instead for the sake of fan service and making more TV show to sell and serving as to bookend a how did we get there prequel story. I also agree with Shafe specifically on the point of feeling like the beginning of season cuts to Jimmy's life after Breaking Bad also feel kind of disingenuous. If we're supposed to be viewing this show as a tragedy, which it seems like it's going for, since, what? Saul was killing it in Breaking Bad. He was doing fucking great. I'm not gonna feel bad for him in this show. He was having the time of his life in Breaking Bad. He wasn't, like, too evil. He was just kind of a dirtbag. And it wasn't any of the faults this show wants to instill in Jimmy that caused him to lose in Breaking Bad, that puts him in that place after Breaking Bad that we see him in, at the Cinnabon and whatever. You know, it was actually his good qualities. Saul had a strong loyalty to his clients in Breaking Bad, even when you thought he was selling them out while getting threatened with actual death by Mike, for example, Mike and Gus. It was all a ruse. He was still on Walter and Jesse's side, sticking with his clients. His loyalty and not cutting Walter out when he had the chance, he easily had the chance, was his downfall in Breaking Bad. I don't watch this show and think, oh, this is the path of a tragic man, and we're seeing him slowly but surely reach the point that he ends up at all the sun. No, motherfucker. For one, he doesn't have some of these flaws in Breaking Bad, so those definitely weren't the cause of his eventual downfall. The events of Breaking Bad can't be considered the natural developments from this story either, even though this story is already very unnatural in its progression. It's not the fault of anything that we're seeing happen here that things go bad for him in the other TV show. And thirdly, I never saw Saul Goodman as a tragic character to begin with in Breaking Bad. He's legitimately happy and satisfied in that show. Why would I retroactively see that as a bad thing? Any scene that plays out, it could have played out a million different ways. And people would just accept it, you know? If the show was written completely differently, all the fans, all the drooling fucking fanboys would still just accept whatever they wrote and say that it's just as natural, you know? How can you say something is perfected or a flawless masterpiece when it could have been wildly different, but you still would have probably blindly accepted and praised it regardless of what they actually wrote the path of the plot to be, you know? It's like they really think that just because they come up with some half-baked character moment, like some half-baked, someone in the writing room said, oh, it'd be really realistic and deep and, like, amazing if he, like, got really stressed out and did something destructive, and we can throw in a scene of it being linked to some figure from his past and add some basic bitch dramatic irony to it. As if any of that is masterpiece worthy, you know? And they don't even bother to check if they already did this before. They just don't put in long-term plans for nuanced, intricate characters. They just decide, okay, this is what we're doing for a couple episodes, I guess. Like, because they just make these kinds of scenes, and they think that their story is automatically a masterwork, like a flawless examination into the human condition. The characters mostly have mundane problems that normal people would have, you know, but they still decide to go about solving them in ridiculous ways. Unlike, say, Walter, who had extreme goals that required extreme measures. And it also established the world building a lot in Breaking Bad to explain the stress that he was under to make those hard choices, like the poor economy, for instance. Like, what's the conflict? Jimmy needs to pay this month's rent? Okay. Normal people also need to pay this month's rent all across the country, all across the world. Oh, and look, most of them do so without breaking the law. Why does Jimmy have to break the law to complete this simple, mundane task? Well, I don't fucking know. He just does it. Oh, Jimmy wants to impress his girlfriend and be all, independent or whatever. Okay, I mean, a lot of people want to do that and deepen their relationship or maybe go into bracket. I mean, they don't do this insane shit. Jimmy randomly decides to do a completely unnecessary criminal act in affecting the Mesa Verde case files that literally causes the conflict that defines the rest of that season and the entire next 2 seasons. Why? What was the conflict that was so vital that he needed to take this action? And look, Kim makes plenty of money on her current client and could easily hire paralegals to supplement her work, especially since the client should be able to pay for themselves, But now she's overworking herself to the point where she crashes her car. Why? Well, she wants to make more money, she wants to pay for Jimmy's side of the office now that he's out of work, and also she wants to stick it to Howard or whatever and be independent or whatever. Okay. Pretty relatively normal motivations that a normal person would have. Is there any reason in that a relatively normal person should make impossibly stupid life choices and overwork themselves to the point of getting in a nearly fatal car accident? These tasks aren't that extreme, and there's no reason to take this extreme of an attitude towards almost any of them. But regardless, the characters all still just choose the dumbest possible choice they can in every situation, just so that they can force another conflict to happen in the show to keep it running. When there are a million other much more sane, reasonable, natural progressions, organic progressions of the plot that a sane, reasonable human being would do in these circumstances. A million fucking people on this earth wake up every day and have toxic family relationships and people that don't support them. They have ego problems. They have bills to pay. They're getting tired and losing passion in their career direction. They're a little bored of what they do day to day. Their romantic interests they want to pursue. They have recently deceased loved ones. These are all, or they're just, kind of bored of any of it. All of these kinds of things. Millions of people around the world every day. And you know what? Almost all of these people on this planet navigate these concerns and issues without making bafflingly stupid and self-destructive life choices every couple of fucking hours. I will not accept any of these things as justifications for why the characters make the choices they make in this show. They don't have to do anything special, and if the reason that they make insanely extreme life choices in relatively mundane situations, physical or emotional situations, if the reason is some sort of underlying mental health concerns, like Jimmy and everyone else are just locked into toxic patterns of behavior due to addictions or depression or whatever else, then the mental health of the characters should be the primary focus and not a half-assed excuse for what the show is presenting you, if that. We get the smallest, most half-assed bullshit, nothing-burg excuses for why the characters don't make more infinitely rational choices. And then we just bum rush into the next big dramatic moment that happens as a result of the incredibly horrible fucking retarded-ass choices everyone makes. Unlike a show like, say, BoJack, where the entire thing is about mental health and self-destructive patterns and really fucking diving deep into why bad choices are made and the actual underlying mental health concerns and existential crises the characters have that push them to harp on the more surface-level conflicts that they encounter in their daily lives, this show just makes any excuse it can to have the characters just make problems. Most of the conflicts are not as dramatic as the show tries to make them seem. The characters are just fucking morons. They're completely inhuman. They deal with emotional strife in insane ways. Over and over. The situations that unfold are not even close to inevitable, quote-unquote, under the circumstances. No, they're not fated, they're contrived. And then we come to another serious problem. Mental health. This show has absolutely no respect for mental health. It's not anywhere near as bad as something like 13 Reasons Why, obviously. I only got really offended in this show at one thing, which was around season 4, episode 1, I think, where like we, the audience, are supposed to blame Jimmy for Chuck's suicide because Jimmy fucked with Chuck's malpractice insurance. And there's this really ham-fisted scene where Howard walks in and he basically like turns to face to the camera, like talking slowly so even the stupid people can understand. And he says, "Did you know that Chuck killed himself because of the insurance?" Nothing else, just so we're clear. Turns to look at the audience again. Chuck killed himself because of the insurance. Nudge, nudge. Now, I'm not a professional psychologist, but I know a lot more about writing than 99% of people, and I know what mental health professionals have advised when writing mental health into a serious storyline. And I also have, basic fucking common sense, which helps in a lot of these situations. Now let's get one thing clear. A suicide is a mistake by the person who commits it. It is not an inevitability that just needs to be caused by some sort of trauma or external force. A suicide is a choice by a person who is choosing to do the dumbest possible thing a human being can do. To portray suicide as anything but that in a story that pretends to be tactful with its handling of mental health in its characters is nothing but disingenuous and irresponsible. 13 Reasons Why did this the whole show, too, something very similar, where basically the show ends up being pro-suicide because, like, the person who killed themselves was in the right. They're portrayed to be that they were in the right the entire time. They're just a victim. The real cause of the problem was just those bad people who did those bad things to the victim. And like, it treats the suicide person as, like, the moral authority of the show. It acts like killing yourself is perfectly justifiable and basically encourages people and tells them that, like, if you want to make someone feel guilty about something they've done, if you want to prove that someone hurt you, that it's a perfectly viable option of forcing them to be guilty or of quote-unquote forcing you to kill yourself. So yeah, that's one of the first major red flags that professionals advise you against when writing a story. You're not supposed to show the act of suicide, for one. You should avoid reading a suicide letter if one was written by the character. Don't show people reacting to finding the dead body. Just don't, like, make it a big fucking pity party where the person who died gets all this, like, emotional attention and validation afterwards and, like, prove something to the other characters. How about we just don't do that shit? How about we have a little bit of common sense here? Chuck tried to end Jimmy's career within the confines of the law, and then Jimmy tried to ruin Chuck's career, again, through completely legal means. There is nothing illegal about Jimmy telling the truth to the insurance company that Chuck is mentally ill. But the show, because it wants to be dramatic, it tries to turn this into a whole, like, oh, who should we blame for this suicide type of thing. The show doesn't respect Chuck's agency as a character. Instead, anything he does wrong is often hand-waved away as, oh, he's mentally ill, so he has an excuse for, being a total fucking asshole. Everyone around him refused to get Chuck the professional help he should have gotten. Chuck himself can and should be judged for not seeking out help for his own mental illness if it was affecting his decision-making. Even if his illness was what made him a piece of shit, he is in the wrong for not seeking to better himself and fix the problem, instead just hanging around and causing more pain. It never treated Chuck's mental well-being as anything other than a dramatic plot point that can be shifted around, or, oh, now his schizophrenia and his sensory hallucinations are worse now. Ooh, it shifts and turns based on how much he likes or dislikes Jimmy. Ooh, magical TV disease. And the same is true for everyone else. If I'm supposed to believe that Jimmy and everyone else in the show makes all their terrible fucking choices over and over because of some underlying mental health thing, and that's why they can't just make normal choices like a normal person, then it's irresponsible for treating that mental illness like the underlying source of conflict that it is, or not doing that. The show isn't about Jimmy getting help for his weird fucking addiction to crime that the show insists that he has, or any of this other insanely compulsive behaviors that make him do stupid, unnatural shit all the time. It's just the excuse that the show uses to make the conflicts happen on screen. Otherwise, I'm just watching characters that act completely inhuman. In fact, Chuck says that Jimmy isn't capable of change. Like, he was just born this way. He was just born to be a criminal, and we as the audience are supposed to hear that, or maybe like he had very formative years in his early years, and whatever. He's just stuck this way. He's fated to be this way. And we're supposed to hear that and think, he might be onto something. He might be a little right. Maybe Jimmy can't change. He'll just keep scamming and hurting people. I mean, that is what happens in Breaking Bad, and the fact that is, like, on the table as an interpretation just shows how little this show gives a fuck about accurately and tastefully tackling mental health. Like, this show is just, like, when you look at it in the bigger picture, it's just people being miserable all the time. Breaking Bad was more or less the same way. I mean, that's why I had a fondness for Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad. Not necessarily because it was maybe the interpretation intended by the show. I think Saul was meant to be more comic relief, and he wasn't meant to really be that symbolic of much, but Saul really was the only person in Breaking Bad who actually had a satisfying existence. He had fun, he was happy, he was satisfied, he was living his best life, no joke. Everyone else is just angry and sad and wearing their fucking dumb frowny faces all the time. Personally, I took this to mean that Saul had his head on right. Like, Walter and everyone else makes all these decisions that he says that he needs to, or for his own satisfaction, but it never seems like he's happy. Never seems like he's enjoying life. Everything always going to shit all the time. There doesn't seem to be a point in doing all of these things if the end result is just him and everyone else being miserable. Saul knew it was important. He did his little criminal acts here and there. He got the money that he wanted. He got what he wanted and enjoyed himself. He relaxed. He had fun. He did whatever he felt like. He didn't push himself to some bullshit agenda. He just chose what made him happy, and that's what made me respect him as a character. But the show doesn't even have a character like that. Everyone is miserable all the time. None of them really have any reason to be. Nothing is stopping most of these characters from just doing something that makes them happy or adjusting their goals or their outlook on life to just to have a fucking basic healthy lifestyle. But they all force themselves into these frowny face situations for all of time. You know, I can't admire anyone's choices at any point because they all suck and they're all making themselves miserable. Oh, so miserable, only frowny faces for you. In the bigger picture, that's what I get out of this show, message-wise. That's what connects with me, is that everyone here sucks and they're all fucking morons. And they're so annoying. Every character is so annoying. The only one I like is Howard now. Like, you know how when you're watching a really shitty drama and like there's some sort of simple, mundane misunderstanding, like, oh, a character walks in at the worst possible time and sees or overhears something that hurts the relationship or they get the wrong impression, whatever. Or just like some contrived-ass soap opera scenario like that, you know what I'm talking about. That's what watching this show feels like a lot of the time. Like, you see a character, you see the writing on the wall, the show is not subtle at all, it's incredibly obvious. You see that a character is about to do something really fucking stupid and just make problems, and you're just rolling your eyes thinking, oh, come the fuck on. Like, could we not just force this stupid embarrassment for 2 goddamn seconds? I mean, the other thing is that Jimmy randomly gets pulled by Lalo to do a thing because of, and this is directly stated, his interaction with Tuco back in Season 1, Episode 2. So by that logic, I'm expected to believe that at this point in the story, Jimmy getting heavily involved in the cartel business, which is probably going to continue on for the rest of this of the story, this is what the main conflict is going to be, that his involvement in the cartel business is entirely predicated on this insanely unlikely contrived situation where he very randomly happened to get involved with Tuco while doing something completely different and just happened to go into his house and happened to be threatened by him. You know how astronomically unlikely and contrived that is? Not only that Jimmy happened to stumble on the cartel guy as a civilian, got involved in a violent situation as well, and they didn't try to hide their cartel affiliations from him. And that's somehow the excuse that they use for basically all of the shit, all of the actual serious shit he gets up to in Season 5 and probably 6 as well, is that one incredibly stupid encounter with Tuco. Think about how contrived that is. Like, actually think about it. This shit with Jimmy and Kim and Lalo, this has nothing to do with anything we've been watching for the last 4 seasons. This is purely due to the encounter with Tuco in episodes 1 and 2 of Season 1, and then, like, whichever episodes he was dealing with Nacho and the Kettlemans. Nothing else in literally the entire show has anything to do with what is currently going on or making Jimmy interact with the cartel. Nothing. They sought Jimmy out specifically purely from the shit that happened in Season 1, and just weird, like it's also just even accepting his interaction with Tuco, it's very bizarre that they would seek out this one guy that they don't even personally know and had one random interaction with that is just a civilian instead of like anyone else that actually works for their organization. Like, they seriously don't have anyone else to do this job. They just go and hire this random fucking lawyer. Sure. Also, and this is a completely different point, not even a criticism of the show, just an annoyance I have with the fan base, but it's weird to see so many people praising Jimmy's ability to do his con man routine. People are like, oh yeah, he's beating all these people, he's such a good lawyer, he's getting the better of them. I mean, he's a criminal. He's cheating. Is it really impressive that he can beat people while literally cheating? If you look at one of those companies that, you know, like defrauds people and embezzles a bunch of funds and stuff, and then years later when it's discovered, they just have to pay a small fine, so it was beneficial in the short and long run of them for them to break the law, would you call them amazing businessmen, or would you call them fucking worthless parasites on society? Jimmy is not a good lawyer. He's a criminal parasite. You know that guy in The Great Ace Attorney that just destroys evidence right in front of you? He's on the well, I guess a bunch of Ace Attorney villains do that at some point. But yeah, the fucking Magnus McGilded guy in the second case, and he's a rich guy that pays off the cops and destroyed and planted a bunch of false evidence and stuff. Is he an amazing lawyer? Does he give an amazing legal defense, or is he just rich and he's a criminal? Which are concepts that are probably linked. Anyways, the reason this feels weird is because the show does seem like it's trying to empower Jimmy. I get why people have this, like, defensiveness about Jimmy's talent, because that's the strangest part. Breaking Bad was about Walter White's toxic sense of ego, you know? His desire to lord over others and be the alpha big dick dog and all that. That was the problem. That was his problem. But it feels like in this, we're supposed to be rooting for Jimmy to do the same thing. We're supposed to feel empowered by Jimmy fucking beating other people, lording it over other people. Like when he gets into a fucking pathetic, whiny fucking micro dick, lashing out with like Kevin Wachtel and other people, you know? Trying to be the alpha or the sigma or whatever he qualifies as in man speak. Why? Why are we turning around and supporting Jimmy's pathetic need to puff out his chest? Why does the show feel like it's celebrating Jimmy's conquest of ego? Where it always tries to show him outshining other people. It tries to affirm his ego. Why? Fan service? Bad writing? What's the fucking angle here? Why is the show going, fuck yeah, Jimmy is so cool. Look at how good he is. Look at how fucking capable he is. He got them all the way down to 7 years. What a fucking Chad. What the fuck is happening? He's the problem. Why are we cheering for his sense of masculinity, his ego, his fucking mental disease? Why? This does the opposite of teach people to not think of themselves as God's gift to mankind like the way that Walter and Jimmy do. This tells people, oh, you're an edgelord, maybe you really are actually better than everyone else around you. The fan service is conflicting with the fucking messages of both shows. This is why you have so many dude bros that love Walter White as if he wasn't always in the wrong from the very beginning. This is why Breaking Bad fans are biologically incapable of sympathizing with women. Oh, Skylar, what a bitch. Can't believe that awful lady. What a fucking horrible person. Because the show wants to, on one hand, criticize toxic masculinity and these ego manlets, but on the other hand, it still tries to empower its characters and present them as cool underdog badasses and such. They want to criticize toxic masculinity, but in practice, they want to appeal to the section of their fandom that thinks these people are cool. Remember when Skylar kicked Walter out of the house? There was so much backlash from the audience of the show, they changed their minds and wrote Walter back into the home life. Literally caved and changed directions of the story to appeal to these loud fucking idiots who thought that Skylar was the bad guy because of a lack of basic common sense, a lack of basic media literacy, and also the mixed messages the show has that encourage that type of interpretation due to how much it glorifies these pathetic people like Walter. So, in one last hurrah, I need to clarify, I don't support canon or revisionist history in media. I don't see a prequel or a sequel as an extension of something. I see it as a completely new product that simply operates with certain exposition already put in place, right? Canon is the dumbest fucking thing in the world, and it only exists for the sake of addiction to fan service. So on this point, I will reuse my clips from my FF7R writing story video. Let me first address the concept of canon from a philosophical standpoint. Canon is when the details of a fictional story are considered to be consistent with other separate pieces of fiction, including fan fiction, like headcanon. The term is used when a particular interpretation of a story is considered to be widely accepted by some sort of authority. But who has that authority, and why? Canon is useful for having shit like sequels. For example, take the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whatever, wouldn't exist without the cultural concept of canon. However, most work generally stands on its own, regardless of what comes after. Does canon help to tell a story? Well, if a narrative needs to work off of some existing piece of media, like a sequel does, then the concept of canon, or an accepted interpretation of the existing content, is often helpful for that. But really, you'll find that most stories that have, say, ambiguous content that might lead to multiple different interpretations of the same thing don't usually have sequels by choice. No, most canon does not exist for the sake of making a story better, making a more insightful, more impactful, or more valuable piece of artistry. No, canon exists purely in the legal sense. All of that shit I just described, not actually canon. See? Canon is a concept of the one true interpretation, but there is no such thing. If a story exists, one person can write a new additional story following the original story's events or setting with one interpretation, and a different writer somewhere else could write a different sequel or spin-off with a different interpretation of the original, and both stories would be equally valid. The concept of canon, or one which is actually true, is a lie. It's fucking fiction. If you told me what your favorite story is, and I told you that the entire plotline of the story was a drug hallucination, it doesn't make it true or false. It's just my narrative that I am now telling you. Anything can happen in fiction. The official writer could come out and say that all the shit never actually happened, it was all a dream. There's literally nothing that they can't write around to make something true or false at the drop of a hat. There is no what really happened, quote unquote, in fiction. All there is what the writer of whatever fiction you're currently consuming says happened, and what anyone else says happened. That's it. Any story can do anything at any time. Fiction is not bound by real-life rules and restrictions. There is no such thing as truth in fiction. So, what the fuck is canon, then? Well, canon is a marketing tool, essentially. Canon is purely a force for pretension. Canon is a force for manipulating a buying audience. Canon is, we have the legal right to say that this is our story and only our interpretation of our story is valid. Canon has nothing to do with writing or artistry or making good art. It's only about claiming ownership over something to make money off of it as a business. It works because people have a natural desire for that type of pretension. Someone else that doesn't work at Square could have also written their own sequel, like say some just dude in his fucking basement, right? He wouldn't be able to profit off of it in any way, but let's say he was an incredible writer who made an astonishing story out of his own sequel to FF7. Let's pretend that art is objective for a second and say that this random guy objectively made a much, much, much better story than what Nomura did with Advent Children. Artistically, the one that should be consumed and praised, in this case, is the one that is better, the one that was made by the more talented writer and created a better story, the one made by the random guy in his basement. But nope, because Nomura works for Square, they get to slap their game with the legal, we own this IP stamp, and that is what determines what people consume. This is what canon is, a way for insecure companies to continue to profit off of a valuable IP by claiming that their work is the one true work in a series, rather than just trusting that they have the actual talent to make something that is actually a worthwhile product and piece of art on its own. Some people really love to live in a fantasy world on this point. They like to tell themselves, oh, I'm certain that everything that comes out in the same franchise was intended from the beginning, and we're just seeing more of this universe that the creator had already envisioned. They don't like to admit when things are just blatantly retcons. For example, retcons or contradictions, or when a spin-off written by a different writer fails to understand the point of the original. Even if it is the same writer, it's still new content. It should be treated as new content. Look at fucking like J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. Have you seen the shit that she's been pumping out in recent years? Did you watch Fantastic Beasts 2? Not only is it utter garbage content I wouldn't force upon my worst enemies, it's retconning the old Harry Potter story all over the place. She constantly just retcons her narratives. Should you go back and change the old story to match her new ramblings, even if they do nothing but make the stories shittier? I wouldn't. Instead, I'd accurately understand that this new content is indeed new content to be appraised on its own merits and subsequently ignored for being worthless dog shit naturally. I understand that every individual piece of media is its own separate thing and there's no one consistent through line of canon. Personally, I would like to read the better story that the random guy in his basement wrote, because I like good stories. I don't care about the imaginary concept of canon, and you shouldn't either. So yeah, poor man's masterpiece. I don't like being a cinema snob, but sometimes you just have to. Sometimes you just have to admit when the normie-filled general populace is too easily impressed by lackluster shit. Like, fuck, you want to watch something that has all these elements you're creaming your fucking jeans for? But better, I'll recommend whatever you want, man. There's plenty of stuff out there that has this basic bitch surface level shit fans of this show point out as reasons to suck its cock, man. These are things people point out to praise in writing and direction of the show are so embarrassing, on the nose, corny, you can't fucking take it. Oh my god, did you see how the show started with Jimmy scamming old folks, and then near the end of the show he tries to trick another old person and he gets caught? What a beautiful circle. Ooh, it's so fucking cringy. How are they not embarrassed to say that shit? I feel like I might die of shame just listening to it. Do you also jizz your pants when you see Dr. Seuss rhyme green eggs and ham with Sam I Am? You think that's fucking brilliant? Oh, you see how, like, there was, like, this early shot of Jim and Kimmy sharing the cigarette, and then in the end it's the same shot. Oh, masterpiece, what a brilliant connection. Truly only a genius could come up with this next level connection. I can't with these fucking people, man. I can't with these fucking. In some ways, I almost wonder if this kind of show is better or worse for the average normie that doesn't usually appreciate heady writing shit. I mean, every shallow, nothingburg, piece of shit thing they point out as some sign of supposed brilliance, they're all things that tons of other media do constantly, but they're just not paying enough attention to notice. So, why do they notice these things in this show? Why do they point them out in this show? Is it because this show is so insanely unsubtle about its symbolism that everyone and their mother can notice this shit without a second thought? Is it because the show has so much pretentiousness to its vibe that all these normies watching it also feel pretentious themselves? They like sipping their chamomile tea, tipping their monocles, carefully studying this crafted piece of art. So it's because they feel like the show is sophisticated and that they are sophisticated for watching it that they put more effort into thinking about it to try to identify the writing elements in it? Or is it just a case of classic doublethink? A case where people just want to praise something because their opinion comes before their reasoning, so they look for any excuse to call this a genius show, and in looking for those excuses, they leap to these painfully obvious surface-level artsy things that they just woefully neglect in other media they already consume. There's a possibility that this is a good thing. After all, if people overpraise this show to such a degree for doing basic-ass shit that other media already does all the fucking time, then look at it optimistically, right? It means that if people put this same fucking energy into appreciating other media, they'll find even more value and appreciate other shit even more, right? Maybe an easy show to analyze like this with really obvious, shallow messages and ideas that beat you over the head for 6 fucking seasons straight. Maybe appreciating writing analysis in something easy like this is like a gateway drug that'll make people start to analyze denser media over time. Or maybe it's just a fucking overrated show and that's that. Anyways, yeah. It's about it for me. It's a good show. I really don't care the metrics of it, what the metrics are. You know, best show ever, fuck off. But yeah, it's a pretty alright watch, you know. All said and done, just trying to get people on the same page in some capacity. My opinion on the show just differs so greatly from common sentiment. It's basically impossible for me to voice my complaints without also scathingly commenting the people that overrate the show and their flawed reasons for doing so. Even still, I don't like putting people down for their taste or their opinions or what they enjoy. If someone walks up to me and tells me that Better Call Saul is a masterpiece and that I should feel the same way, I'm gonna have some issues with that shit, but I have no beef. No beef with people who just like the show, or beef with people of any opinion on any media, really. This has just been me venting, trying to express my malice at this pretentious-ass piece of media and its obnoxious degree of worship, which all too often slides into this, wow, this show is amazing, best show ever. Anyone who doesn't think so is so wrong. They just didn't pay attention. How can anyone not like this? Oh my god, did you hear Shea Frillis said he thought Better Call Saul was overrated? What an asshole. Oh, now he wants to say it's good? You're not allowed to change your mind on the internet. You're not allowed to, oh geez, what a phony little bitch. You know, he only likes it now because season 6 is out. I want a big pat on the back. I want a fucking cookie from the cookie jar because I'm special. I'm so fucking special because I sucked this show's cock long before Shea Frillis did. Do you fucking people listen to yourselves? Hey, Shafe is a good guy. You know, he didn't like it much. It's his opinion. Even back then, he liked it more than I did. He changed his mind. He likes it now. Good on him. So many people on the internet are too fucking big of pathetic pussies to change their minds on anything. They try to inflate their egos as much as possible by viewing themselves as privileged connoisseurs. Because, oh, I'm so special! I have this opinion! Other people who have similar opinions, they aren't as special as me! You know? If someone joins late to the party, I'm better than them because I knew what was what all along. They suck. If I join late to the party, well, I got into it when it was hip and cool to do so. People who had this opinion before me, they're just nerds. They're just fucking whiny gatekeepers, man. Fuck them. Everyone ties their opinions to their fragile little egos so much online. A show isn't even a show anymore. It's just a meaningless punching bag to get used and abused for opinion, validation, clout. Fuck off. But yeah, that's the shit that bothers me. I don't want to insult people just for loving the show. I love it when people love things. It is so fun. It is so much fun. It's passionate. It's great to see. It's been great to see all the emotion and how much love people have to give with Better Call Saul wrapping things up and how much people are celebrating it. That's what it's all about, man. It's fun to see people love things. It's just the opinion goblins and these wannabe intellectual critics that piss me off. People that either were already only watching the show, or probably any show, just to have an opinion on it, for their fucking tie it to their fucking internet ego, or people who enjoy the show like a normal person but are just too insecure to just enjoy it themselves, so they feel the need to insist that loving the show is the only sane or morally correct thing to do. Everyone who cares that much about the opinions on goofy lawyer TV show, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of breath, energy, etc. Can we just have fun talking about shit like normal people? These grandiose fucking claims about show's indisputable brilliance? Internet goblins have taken what would have otherwise been a perfectly fine, modestly enjoyable experience for me and fucking ruined it. Because now, when I watch Better Call Saul, all I can think of is how, of every fucking annoying ass person, how much people insist I need to worship him more. Seeing the incredibly surface level things and just recalling every instant of someone saying how it's so amazing that tiny little thing, contrasting between that and how not amazing the show actually is. I love that you love the show. I love seeing people enjoy things. It's so much fun. You don't need to be defensive or a weird asshole about it. I have fun hating parts of it. I love that you're having fun loving it. Why should we both be having fun, right? Anyways. Fuck, man. That's all I got for you today. See ya.